lot about. When it first came into play, it seemed like it was a goofy novelty that we weren't quite sure what was going to happen. And the first year certainly looked that way. There's a little bit of friction internationally in terms of the IDBF and what's happening with world championships and those kinds of things. So we're just trying to find our place in the world. They have requested organizations to put in to be the national federations. Unfortunately, they don't have the International Ice Dragon Boat Federation doesn't actually have any governing documents or articles, but as a requirement of membership, it states that you must comply by them. So we have expressed interest, but until we actually know what we're complying to, we won't be formally submitting our membership.
Just to add to that, I can say that the Chinese Federation is very keen on Ice Dragon Boat,
Yeah.
Chinese Dragon Boat Federation, and is genuine, like quite genuinely wants to see it in the Beijing 2022 Olympics.
So, yeah, and
the Chinese Dragon Boat Federation has stated that as their goal.
Yeah, it's an interesting twist because I don't know, some of you may know that the system in China as of this year will have changed. Whereas in the past, it has been a government-funded organization with their athletes being taken care of. As of this year, that is no longer true. They are having to develop their own club structure, and they're going to be just like us, as far as we can ascertain. So I suspect, having alternate revenue opportunities and different things like that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense when you're facing a world that you've never had before. And then, of course, Mr. Lau from Champion it's an interesting thing. It's the same thing as it was for, Dragon Boat in the early days. It's being driven by commerce, right? So it's people that have developed a new boat, a new revenue stream, and a new things to sell. So we'll see what happens. Did any of you guys go to Ottawa?
Yeah, I was there for the first one.
And anybody else go? What was your experience?
It was fun. I don't know if I'll do it again. I was asked to come and do it again and work with a couple teams this year, and I declined. It was fun at a point in time, the first ever. It was great. I took my daughter along, and she was a drummer on the boat. But it's all dependent on weather, right?
It is.
So the first year, by halfway during the race, the ice was soft, and there were people actually hopping out of the boat to push it. And if you're serious about a sport, a couple of people pushing your boat.
Yeah. I've heard it suggested that it should be like bobsled, and you should have the two people in the back should be wearing spiked shoes and be pushers like bobsled.
Well, interesting.
Get it going and jump in.
The ice race that was held a week after Ottawa in, where was it? Fort Mix something. Yeah, they had
Quebec?
10. No.
No,
This was
in
just south of Thunder Bay, wasn't it? Something. But they had mushers. So it was a different setup than what we had in Ottawa. That depending on how fast your musher was, they were at the back of the boat pushing and then hopping onto ride it like a
I
dinosaur.
think Chloe and our talks, we don't know what Ice Dragon Boat is yet. We want to be at the forefront of
We
the
just want to make sure we
information.
don't get left. We don't want you guys to get left behind because we haven't jumped on board. So I think that's the big thing. If it's going to, have an organization and require advocacy and require organization and policy and all those kinds of things, then we want to make sure that that's in place, as opposed to having somebody who's making money off it, perhaps generating that kind of stuff, or what. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to try to make sure that it's athlete-centered because that's at the core of our philosophy.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest the mushers or bobsled. The boat's high off. And you slip and fall.
Oh, I know.
Like rules and safety.
Rules and safety, yeah.
Rules and safety are other things that need
But it was fun.
Yep. So that's my piece. Let's go turn the lights on.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
Just a note on 2019, a couple notes on 2019. 2019 is Dragon Boat Canada's 25th anniversary. So we're planning to just do a number of things around 2019 and being our 25th anniversary to celebrate. And one of those things is some sort of a refresh around our brand, around our logo, and getting some community involvement in feedback around things like that. So we're not just looking for one thing in 2019, we're looking for a series of things to celebrate, maybe 25 different things to celebrate our 25th anniversary. One of those things that will be very unique is the Canadian Championships happening in Regina. So I was in Regina last year as part of the site selection, and I can genuinely say I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it because the city of Regina is going to be super pumped to have us. It's going to be a huge deal for the city, and there will be banners everywhere, and there'll be a big welcome. But also just the way the city works is that there's a downtown, and all of the hotels are in that area. So we're really going to take over the city for those 3, 4, 5 days. And we're looking at unique things like, a festival tent in the city, not at the race course. And at night, as you walk to and from dinner, there could be some Dragon Boat-oriented activities going on. And the race course itself is a high-caliber race course. CKC has done their Canadian Championships on multiple occasions on that race course. So we're not going to anybody, just some water somewhere around. Like, it is a very, very high-quality race course. So it's going to be good. I'm going to Regina next week to, again, look at the race course, do a site selection, and meet with our partners there. Our partners being the people who run the Regina Dragon Boat Festival, and start to work through the details and logistics of next year.
Any questions about Regina?
What's the cost of getting them back, Jeff?
I don't know the exact cost, but I know that if you're traveling from Vancouver or you're traveling from Toronto, your cost is pretty similar. I don't know if that helps you out at all, but the whole country is going to incur a similar cost. There was a request for proposal went out. Regina and Calgary were the bidders. There was not a bid from Vancouver from that perspective, so I can say that. So from Dragon Boat Canada's perspective, we asked anyone in the West who wants to host, and this was our best opportunity. So I didn't answer your question, but Google will.
Are there clubs in Regina?
Yes, so they're at peak. Their local festival was about 120 crews. It's not like that anymore. It's close to 40. They have one competitive club, which is Pond Scum, and it's the Prairie Dragons Racing Club. So they've been actively involved with Dragon Boat Canada coming to the Canadian Championships for quite some time. They are predominantly a senior-based organization. They've kind of aged in place. That wasn't always true, but I know that they're always working on trying to grow that, and they see this as being a real opportunity. One of the other things that we're going to be trying to do as part of this is to bring U24 racing and potentially university racing up, because there's currently nothing like that going on in the province. So there's potentially real opportunity there. So we're trying to work with the local festivals and the local clubs to make that happen. The Student Racing Committee is very excited about that potential. So we're looking to see if we need just to find that one person who's willing to kind of really take the lead, and we'll see what happens. That would be very healthy for all of us.
And just in case it's a thought, why Regina? The answer is that we entered into an agreement with Welland. So Canadian Championships happens predominantly in Welland in Ontario. And so once every 6 years, Dragon Boat Canada is committed to go west, because the Western crews have to bear the travel challenge to the greatest degree, because it most often happens in Welland. So once every 6 years, we are returning the favor and going west.
So depending on how this goes, and then also once our agreement with Welland comes to a close, which it will do in a couple of years, then through that process, we're going to be relooking and seeing how, what makes the most sense. So originally, the organization had mandated itself to do it on a rotationary basis, so that we would be in a different region every year. That financially was unsustainable, going out west, particularly in non-CCWC race-off years. And there was, at that time, there was a lot of work to be done at the basin, which has since been done. So there was a high level of frustration amongst Montreal athletes, and they actually surrendered their opportunity to host for the period. So I said, that's all going to be rethought once we come to a close with our agreement, and we will definitely be looking for feedback from all of you guys about what you think that it should look like. I'd say you guys, not just central paddlers, but also athletes from across the country, to see what they think makes the most sense, that we can make sure that we're addressing everybody's, because it's a development issue. You know, it does make a difference, and it's hard when everybody's in Welland, because everybody has to travel in Welland, and everybody has to, you know, stay in a hotel in Welland, and we're cognizant of that. So we'll just have to see what works out, and like I said, we'll get feedback from you guys. And yes?
Do we have any partnerships with Air Canada, WestJet?
No,
Nothing at all?
really, honestly, like, unless you're curling and hockey, the days of that are gone. We continue to try. We're in the process of filling out a sponsorship application at the present time with Air Canada, and we'll see what gives. It doesn't do a whole, like, it's not a ton. So, I mean, you take the NRA, right? I mean, there was a big deal about what they were getting from their partners in terms of flying. You got $100 to go to the NRA National Conference. Okay, so that's the kind of, like, so the NRA, that's all they can get. So just bear that in mind.
Just one more note before we switch to a more open forum model. But beyond our board, something that we're trying to put emphasis on this year is community volunteers. Chloe and I have a word for them. We call them super volunteers. We're looking for super volunteers. An example would be Locke.
Yep.
Locke is a super volunteer. He doesn't have a formal position within Dragon Canada, but he finds some really tangible ways to make huge contributions. Jeff Holyabishin is a super volunteer. He's not formally part of our board, but he works very closely with Chloe. He's willing to do a lot of things, particularly in his area of expertise. So if you know of these people, if you are one of these people, if there's somebody that you can think of that suffered an injury and wants to be engaged with the sport and has something to offer in an area of need, then we're looking to have more super volunteers. We think that's one way to move the organization forward.
And we are happy to be told where the holes are. So it's not that we are always going to come to the organization, to come out to the community and say, we need a blankety blank. Like, you guys know best where the gaps are, right? So if you identify a gap, then you let us know.
My basic premise coming in as president, and I can experience this from my own club, is the best asset and resource we have is our athletes. And if we can inspire them and find a way to engage them, their skills will come to the forefront and make a huge contribution. So our job will be to try to navigate and provide the guidance to those people.
So now it's your turn.
So we're going to change the actual setup.
Yep.
And we're going to, this was my great idea. I want to be clear. No, this was Jim's idea. We're going to create a circle.
Yep.
Move our chairs into a circle, and that way we can all see each other as we speak. Jason, bring it in. Cheryl, bring it in.
So I got a few questions for you guys.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
hit it.
So, national, Canadian nationals. There are talks about 1,000 meter.
There are no talks, there will be.
Great. What are the logistics of that? I'm going to have to take an extra day off?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
You want me to tackle that?
Sure.
So we don't yet have the schedule, but I can say Chloe and I have had talks about how the schedule will work. Our schedule the last few years has been all 200s on Friday, gender 500s and 2Ks on Saturday, mixed 500s and 2Ks on Sunday. This being in a 2-year cycle, this being our lower registration year, we know we have more time in the schedule. We've committed to a Friday afternoon, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday as our schedule. So right now we're looking at, thousands are going to be direct final. It will not be heats and finals. Okay? They might be,
They
if
might
there's
be.
time. Once we do the final schedule, if there's time, we're happy to give more races. But our current vision, from a scheduling standpoint, is that they may just be one race, direct finals, for the 1,000 meters. And all we have to navigate around, Sandy, is the moving of the start line. The moving, every time we move the starter blocks, that's an hour. So there's always a break between the 500s and not necessarily, because the 2K doesn't go
Except for the
that
2K, because we do it in advance.
Yeah.
So any time we're looking at moving the things, we actually have to negotiate with Welland. So it's got lots of moving pieces, and so we're trying to project what registration is gonna look like and in what categories, so that we can figure out best how to manage this. And then we'll take 2 or 3 options, probably 3 options to the Welland Recreational, actually they're not called that anymore, to the city of Welland, and then we'll see from there, we'll develop the schedule that makes the most sense for the most number of athletes.
Yeah. Jim?
I just suggest if it's going to be a smaller group of, because I'd heard it was premier, was it just premier
So-
or all divisions?
Chloe's philosophy is if you offer a race to one group, you
Okay.
offer it to everybody.
That's just what I'd heard,
Everybody.
that's all. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's premier and senior, so it's not gonna be senior ABC, it'll be senior.
Okay, all right.
And
So
premier.
it's a limited number.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you don't necessarily need to move the starting line, that you could start the races in the old-fashioned way.
Floating starts.
And just floating starts
Yeah.
up at the top.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. It allows the scheduling issue to be completely
Yeah.
left intact in the manner which it is.
Yeah.
And I would also suggest that the margin for the small little bits of difference in the 1,000, if one crew starts this much ahead of another crew in
Yeah.
1,000 meters,
Different than the
it's not going to be the end of the
That's a
world.
really valid point.
So,
I'll be on the start again.
We want something
Give me one.
new and exciting, especially in the years that we're not as full. And Canada, we just don't race enough thousands.
We don't. So
So,
we want to reward the people that are coming this year, so it'll be a fun opportunity. And of course, we'd much rather be able to do a semi and a final, so we'll see.
what the schedule allows. I wouldn't, at this time, anticipate this for 2019. As our registration gets crazy in a qualifying year, it may be difficult to fit in 4 race distances under those circumstances. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying this is something that we have the opportunity to do in 2018, given our...
And we need to see what the interest is as well, right? If most crews don't register, then we'll have to go back and, we'll have a conversation with
But
the
it
clubs
is
and
happening,
crews and
4
find out.
distances this year.
And it counts towards the points, right? So,
I think so, we have to talk to our
Yeah, it counts.
our officials committee.
I think how it's working is it won't apply towards your medals, your overall distance medals, right? Because the breakdown won't necessarily work. But it will account towards overall club points. And that's my understanding, but like I said, that's still to be worked out.
that would be problematic if you have senior, because how are you going to break up the seniors?
Exactly,
You can do it for premier, but you couldn't do it for
Yeah.
senior to include it.
yeah. Exactly, so.
You have a question?
Were you looking at having it based on a qualifying time from another distance, or is it
Depends where it
on how
lands
many-
in the schedule. If it lands at the end, then absolutely. Then you use the previous days to seed the 1,000.
Like we do for the 2K.
If the 1,000 ends up being first, logistically, then we have to come up with a solution for that. So we don't yet have that finalized.
so I'm misunderstanding. So, is it direct finals or direct to finals? Is it?
I'm saying direct finals. You're not going to race 2 1,000s. You're going to race 1 1,000.
Yeah.
It could be
1
in
1,000, and
sections.
that's a final. So his question is, what lane am I getting? That's your question, right?
If there's more than 6 boats, then are you running maybe potentially 2 races, 2 1,000 races, and then top times?
Just like my high school 800-meter races, by time.
But again, ideally, we'd much rather be able to do it as our standard racing procedures, but we're going to do the very best we can with what we got, and it's going to be the first year, and we're going to see what the interest is like, and then we'll get feedback from everybody, and
For both unisex and mixed?
We're not sure about that yet, are we?
Is there interest? So, I mean, this is a great opportunity. What do you guys think? Would you like to see unisex and mixed for that?
Please.
Yes.
Yes.
All right then.
That's just one team answering, by the way.
If you show up, you got the loudest
My
voice. They want
question
to.
back to you would be, if we evaluate that by including gender, we have to start earlier, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. instead of noon, 1 p.m.
Okay.
What, on the Friday?
Yeah, because that was part of our
Absolutely.
rationale, was if we started later in the day, it means that you all don't have to have hotel rooms on Thursday night. It means
Yeah.
you can get up in the morning and drive
Yeah.
if you want. So that was kind of one.
But
It
the
was
only thing I
specific-
can see happening is it just starts the regatta earlier. And I'm not talking even 7, 8
Yeah,
a.m.
about 10.
I'm saying once we lay out the schedule and we have a good sense of number of teams, Friday start time could fluctuate a little bit.
Then I would endorse only having the races such that you only race once. Because if you're looking at racing 200s on the tail end of the day, that's a lot of racing.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do 1,000, just a program, 1,000 in unisex, you're going to do 1,000 in mix.
Yeah.
That's for many people, 2 times 1,000 before you even start
Yeah.
to do the 200 day, for the rest of the day, which is 200s in both divisions,
Right.
which can represent 3 races.
Yeah.
So you're now racing 8 times
Yeah,
on the first day.
yeah.
So I would hope that you might look at a seating method that would be based on, just throwing out ideas, based on the previous year. I'm not saying that all the crews, but you might get a pretty good cross-section of people that have raced before. If there are new crews that want to race that didn't race at Nationals the year before, you might look at them in certain lanes. I don't know, but you know where I'm going.
I'm quite comfortable with those who attend and come to Canadian Championships. They get to be the known, and
Yeah.
those who don't get to be the unknowns.
Yep, it's part of the deal.
I mean, just on the point on whether to do mixed only or to include open and women's, I think if the objective is to provide crews with opportunities to race the distance, then and to help us in world championship situations, then it should be gender and
Yeah.
mixed.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my view.
Done.
I can say from working with Chloe, Chloe's a huge advocate of offering every race distance to every team in the entire competition. IDBF, for example, often with junior B or senior C, they don't get an event. At the World Championships, senior C does not race the 1,000 meters. In Hungary, certain categories will not race a 2K. And every time there's an instance of that, they hear from Chloe. You should be offering a full slate. Once last year with the thunderstorms, there was one category, junior women, or was it all the juniors?
Junior B.
There was one category that did not get a 2K, and we heard it. We heard it loud and clear from them. So I can just say that Chloe believes very strongly, and if you're going to offer something, offer it definitely.
The IDBF's policy has always been that they will do it based on interest, but then not offer it. So that's not our way. Anything else?
So on the 1,000 at Worlds, Senior C does not race it. I've not gotten an answer that to the question. We've had multiple questions to different people. I spoke to Matt, and he said he was going to look into it.
So what I would say, because you and I had a conversation the other day about a senior topic, senior D.
Yeah.
If you can itemize your topics, send them to Jonathan Wilkins,
Yeah.
send them to him, and then he will advocate on your behalf, both to us, and to IDBF. Like between him and he's a member of Dragon Boat Canada, we'll come up with the best strategy to get heard. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So on the topic of senior, pardon me this side of the room for a second, we had been trying to work.
He's,
Oh, Jim's a senior?
there.
we have a couple seniors here. Ryan's insane.
All right, you're a senior. All right, I take it back.
I'll take that as a compliment.
So the IDBF last year announced a number of new commissions that they were setting out. They were all with the direct purpose of trying to check off all the boxes on their IOC application. Not about getting into the Olympics, just to be taken into the Olympic family, so to be part of the IOC. And they had this whole list of things that they really need to do and make a ton of sense, whether it was things like improving their doping, whether it was things like gender policy, whatever, women in sport, a whole bunch of them. And we thought, hey, what a great opportunity. We just went through a year where they decided arbitrarily that they were going to change the rules about senior and potentially squish them all up and throw this one out and throw that one out and, you know, reduce things. So we thought this is a great opportunity. The reason why they said they were going to take all these actions was because they didn't feel that there was sufficient interest and there wasn't sufficient support, which if anybody's been racing seniors and they've watched the numbers, we know that it grows. I mean, you were at the first World Championships in 2007, and there was no, I mean, we looked at the participants, weren't you there in 2007? I thought you had ladies there.
Wasn't the first world champion?
No, I'm saying the first one with senior B in it.
Oh, when they went beyond senior.
Yeah, and, you know, there was nobody. There was Canada. And we had to argue to get our athletes to be allowed to race in the division down to represent the division up because nobody else participated. But it's grown immensely, and it's really quite robust. So I don't know that they've actually looked at what the numbers show, because if they did, because we have, I mean, the growth is evident. So we had put forward to the IDF that this would be a great opportunity to develop a seniors commission. They were not interested at that time. So what we decided to do is we'll just do it ourselves. So Jonathan is not just working in Canada, he's communicating with other countries, and we're going to do our very best to advocate with the IDBF and the larger picture. So if this is something that you're interested in seeing, and if you've got ideas for growth and development, if you know, things like not allowing for everybody to race all distances on some bizarre notion that, you know, it's too much racing for somebody who's, you know, 57. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So, you know, absolutely do as Scott says and communicate with Jonathan, and we'll work to put these things together. He is looking for people to sit on his committee, so that would be great. If you're asking about Senior D, I know that Stephen is all gung-ho about this, and there's actually a Senior D crew in Fort Langley, BC.
Yeah. Okay.
Chloe, I sent an email to someone who sent an email about, I don't know if it was Senior C. I don't know, Anthony, if you forwarded it to me or if it was someone else on the Senior C crew this year. But someone sent an email asking for trying to rally support around keeping Senior C going.
Yes.
And I wrote an email in response, but I didn't get a reply, so I don't know if this feedback was received. But
Can you turn the camera off?
So the point I was, and this is through my involvement with the Senior C program for this round of the championships, so or the Worlds, and the point is that